Havenhythe, RuneScape's largest area expansion ever, is here, at least part 1 of the update. So let's take a look at everything added with this massive update, plus I'll show you how I made a few hundred mil in just an hour or so on release. Looking at the map of Havenhythe, it is huge, and it includes a lot of new content. There's 2 early game bosses, Ivar, which is a hill giant. There's also a Silverquill the hedgehog, which you can fight after one of the new quests. There's a new summoning minigame, they added Birdhouses, there's a new fishing minigame, there's Big Game Hunter 2 in the Hollow Hill, some new resource rocks that you can mine, there's Haven Silver, which is a part of one of the quests. Just a lot to explore, 4 new quests in total. The first quest being Visions of Havenhythe, which you can start at the bar just north of the Port Sarim lodestone. The second quest being Hearts of Sanguine, which continues on the Havenhythe storyline, and I'm assuming builds up to Havenhythe Part 2 later on this year. It also unlocks a new low to mid game boss being Silverquill the Dreadhog. This boss has just 80,000 health, but it does have some mechanics where it spawns some minions that you need to deal with. There's also a mechanic where it shoots some pools of blood, which you need to make sure you're not standing on, and it reflects damage back onto yourself. The boss doesn't have any great drops. Its only unique drops include the Sanguine Spines, Silver Spines, and then the pet, the Silverquill's Blood-Filled Cyst. The spines, they're just used for Haven Silver bolts, which I'm assuming will be useful against vampire creatures. And then it just has some random uncommon and common rewards with gems, a few herbs, and some wood spirits. Ivar, the new hill giant boss, is an even lower level boss with only 40,000 health. It just has one simple mechanic where it shows the area effect where he's going to slam his hammer. You just need to step out of the way. But it is a solid boss for maybe low level players. It has some decent Iron Man supplies, and it does drop 4 different uniques. These uniques include the Bone Crusher Maul, which is a tier 40 2-hand weapon. It does crush all bones dropped for prayer XP, like a early game Bone Crusher. He also drops a tier 40 magic power armor mask. There's the Colossal Bone, which gives 400 prayer XP, and of course, the pet. There's also another new quest called Whiz Kid, where you teach a little kid a little bit about magic spells. And there's also a whole new crab quest where you make the Crabulet, so you can now talk to crabs. There is a brand new fishing minigame or training method where you're essentially breeding fish and then harvesting them. I found it was a little bit annoying just because there isn't a bank nearby and you need to actually catch something like 250 of them before the person nearby will be able to note those fish for you and unnote them. But it seems like a pretty cool method, probably some decent XP per hour, and it's cool how you can just multiply some fish by putting them in, letting them multiply, and then catching them at a very fast rate. A brand new fish called the Giant Crayfish is also included in this new fishing minigame. You can also catch them at the dock in the southeastern part of Havenhythe, which requires level 82 fishing, and they do give 2,150 life points when eating the cooked version. There's also a brand new summoning training method where it gives you boosted XP, except you have to wait for the pouches to fully craft, and the 3 obelisks changes every once in a while. This new summoning training method comes with a very steep Completionist cape requirement where you have to unlock the entire shop. So for most people, that will include buying the Fang of Moagan and the Spirit Wolf title, which is 9,200 points, and you get 1 point per pouch crafted right now. So it is going to take a very long time to get all the points required to buy out this shop, especially given with just how slow it is to craft a pouch here. And you can't even sell the ingredients to the shop owner there. You need to run all the way to a bank, which is probably at least a 30-second run with dive and search. So if you are a Completionist cape owner, there's going to be a few new tasks that are going to take a bit of time to complete. Before we look at my favorite piece of content that was added with Havenhythe, there are a bit of miscellaneous content that was also added. There are a new low-level Slayer creature that people are camping for the Vampirism gloves. These gloves are a very low-tier equipment. They're a tier 25 hybrid armor, and they do give you a passive heal of 20% of damage dealt, but it's only up to a maximum of 20 per hit, so it's really not going to heal you a whole lot, and is more of an upgrade for early game players. There are a few new hunter methods, including charming moths, which you can search these hollow trees to find, and they just give some charms of the color and sometimes some spirit shards. There are birdhouses, which was an idea taken from old school, and basically you put them up and you can harvest them for some XP. So 1000 hunter XP for an internal birdhouse, which requires like level 100 hunter, so it's not really a great hunter training method, which I think is absolutely great. And then there are also black Chinchampas. They're called Volatile Chinchampas when you're catching them, and it's just a new tier 75 Chinchampa that you can now use. Now for the most exciting update, in my opinion, which is Big Game Hunter 2. You hunt giant Kevits and giant Chinchampas, and they drop the new Apex Hide, which is used to create the Masterwork ranged armor, which was also included with this update. On release, Big Game Hunter 2 was the first thing I went to do to try and make a little bit of money, and it worked out pretty well. If you've done Big Game Hunter 1, then this will be fairly intuitive. You're still building all 3 traps and then baiting the middle to capture the creature, but it does have some slight differences to it. I found it much easier to build all of the traps before triggering any of them, because once the creature does become injured, its aggression radius becomes much larger and it's just much more difficult to complete. So with the Chinchampas, essentially you need to search these hollow trees for some butterflies. You're using this as bait to get them under the traps. And like I said, it's better to have all of the traps and the bait box built before you start damaging the creature. Once the traps are all built, you start baiting them, and once the Chinchampa is under it, you can trigger the trap and it will deal some damage. Just like with Big Game Hunter 1, there is a specific color of moth or color of poison that does 30k damage, one that does 15, and one that does 7.5k. So you need to test that out, and once you find the right one, it's the same one for the full hour. Also, every time you trigger a trap, it does burn the grass, and so you can no longer hide in it. That's why it's really important to have all 3 traps built, because it's much more difficult once that aggression radius becomes larger. And then once the Chinchampa's down to 0 health, you can bait the large box trap and capture the creature. From Big Game Hunter 2, you get Apex Hides and then some meat, which can be used for the Kevit, and the Kevit meat is used for the Chinchampas. So you go back and forth both encounters. On release, I sold a ton of the Apex Hide and Apex Leather just by using a tanner, and I made a lot of money. After maybe just 20 minutes or so of Big Game Hunter 2, I was able to get over 100 Apex Leather, and just about 2 hours after release, they were selling for around 1 million coins each. I quickly sold all of the other leather and made a quick 100 mil, and the Apex Hide and Leather are still selling for quite a bit right now, including the Chinchampa meat as well. So Big Game Hunter is very profitable on the day of release, even if you didn't get it quite at just 2 hours in. Even about 8 hours after release, the Apex Leather and the giant Chinchampa meat are selling for quite a bit, and you can make 6 or 7 mil GP per capture right now. The giant Kevit is also an option to capture. It's very similar but slightly different. There's actually a little Kevit watcher as well, which can make it a little bit more difficult. Essentially, it's the same thing though. You want to build all of the traps and the bait box in the middle before you go ahead and start luring them into the traps, because the radius gets much larger, and if both of the creatures see you at the same time, the aggression bar goes up twice as fast and you'll be done in a matter of seconds. Once all the traps are built and the poisoned Grenwall spikes are added, you can throw rocks and lure the large Kevit over, and he will run into the trap, stealing 30k if you have the right poison. So you can quickly lure him around the entire arena. You will notice that the Watcher goes through these caves in the back, so you need to get out of there as fast as possible after luring the large Kevit. And just like the Chinchampa, when he is injured, the aggression radius is massive. And once he's down to 0 health, you can bait the trap in the middle and claim the loot. Finally, with the Apex Leather, you can make the Masterwork Ranged Armor. I haven't looked into this too much, except just looking to see how good the armor is, and it actually looks really strong. It is sort of like tank armor, where it has that life bonus, but it also gives you the range damage bonus. So it's like tank armor and power armor combined. The effect is similar to the other Masterwork armors, or similar to Crypt Bloom in a way, where it has a percentage chance to reduce the incoming damage and spread it over time. Comparing it to Elite Dracolich armor, the Masterwork Ranged Armor has a higher range damage bonus, higher armor bonus, it has a life point bonus, and even better prayer bonus. So I am kind of interested to see just how good this armor is. You do lose the Dracolich effect, which gives you that crit chance after a rapid fire, and that's very satisfying. But I'm interested to see just how good the Masterwork Ranged Armor would be with the new Equilibrium perk from Invention. So I'm thinking that's something definitely worth testing very soon, and as someone who really likes ranged, I'm really interested to see just how good this Masterwork Ranged Armor is. My overall thoughts on Havenhythe Part 1 is positive. It does have a little bit for everyone, but the area right now is definitely leaning towards the lower or early game players, which is perfectly fine. There are some new boss pets to hunt, although they are fairly low level bosses, but for me, I'm going to be enjoying some of the big game hunter too, and I'm also interested to test out the ranged Masterwork armor. For a Completionist Cape player, there's a lot of tasks left to do to reclaim my Completionist Cape, so I'm going to be busy in Havenhythe for the next little while. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of Havenhythe, and if you are excited for Part 2 later on this year.